It's time. It's time to go back through everything I read this year. Tell you what I thought. Also, can we appreciate the Harry Potter t-shirt? I'm obsessed. So I made one of these videos last year because I love watching these kinds of videos and I always get loads of book recommendations from other people that make them. So last year I made my own and I really enjoyed the process of doing it. So I thought I'd do it again. So I'm gonna fire up my Goodreads and then we shall just get straight to it. I read 15 books this year and then listened to 3 audiobooks. I think in the new year I would like to try and get better at listening to more audiobooks, especially on my commute to work. I have such a hang up about listening to audiobooks versus reading a book. Like there's certain books that I'm like, that's an audiobook book, and then that's a book that I would like to read, like physically read rather than listen. I have a couple books on my TBR that I have as Kindle books, but I reckon I can get them through the library as an audiobook as well, and I wonder whether I might try experiment with like hybrid listening and reading, because I just don't think those books are going to read themselves otherwise, so I need a bit of encouragement. But yeah, 15 books read, 18 books total if you're including audiobooks. So to start the year off, I read The Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. Now, last year I spoke about how I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This is part of the same series. I know they're really popular, I just don't think they're for me. I think I'm not really much of a romance reader unless there's something slightly different about the romance, or if it's like a really good romance. I think I really struggle with the cheesy, easy read romances. So The Christmas Tree Farm I started late last year and carried through to early January, and it was perfect for the time that I read it because it was festive, but that was kind of it. It's a grumpy sunshine romance with the girl being grumpy, which I feel like perhaps I've not come across as often, but she inherits the Christmas tree farm, but I think she doesn't really like Christmas from my memory, and so she doesn't really want to set it up, or like she's not really enjoying the Christmassy spirit of things within the town, and everyone is very Christmassy. And then obviously she meets the main male character and they get off to a rocky start, and then it's your classic romance basically. So if you like a cute cheesy romance, then perhaps that one is for you. I gave it a 2-star on Goodreads out of 5. Then normally I read things on Kindle, but I've read a decent number of like physical books this year, so this was my first one. So good. I've read Taste, which I enjoyed, by Stanley Tucci, but I much preferred What I Eat in a Year. I think it's because it's kind of set out like this, if you can see, like you have the day, so it's written like a diary. He doesn't write about every day of the year, but he writes about most. I just really enjoyed it. It made for like quite a quick read. He spoke about what he ate while he was filming Conclave, what he ate on holiday, what he ate when he had the flu, or like film premieres, all of those. It was both fun to read because it was like reading his diary, but it was also fun to learn about all of this different kind of food. So for that I gave it a 4 out of 5. Then my first 5-star of 2025 was Bridget Jones' Diary. I love the film, so it was almost a guaranteed win, but I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did because it worked as a film format and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about reading a diary. I really enjoyed obviously reading the Stanley Tucci book, and that was a diary-esque structure, but it's safe to say I absolutely loved it. It was so fun to read and like laugh out loud funny as well. It's also made me want to read books of films that I really like, so I really love The Devil Wears Prada, and I know there's a book version of that, so perhaps I'll give that a go. Then I read the 4th ACOTAR book, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This I gave 4 stars. It was perfectly fine, but that was kind of it. It was clearly a filler ready for the 5th book, because the 5th book is so big that I understand that takes time to read, but I almost kind of felt perhaps the 4th one wasn't needed. Like I said, I gave it 4 stars, so I still enjoyed it. I love the world, I love the characters, but not really much happened. Then my next book I read was The Dalagut Dream Department Store. This one, I'm not gonna lie, did I just get it for the cover? I gave this a 3-star. So the plot of this is that you follow the main character who works in this department store, and within the department store they sell different kinds of dreams. So each floor sells a different kind of dream, and every night when you go to sleep in the book you visit this department store, and so you're reading it from the perspective of the staff selling the dreams. It was a really cool concept of a book. It was just quite a slow read, and I can't even really remember if there was much of a story to it, like much of a like dilemma or anything. I just remember it being a really cool world to be in, but that was kind of it. I think it was unique, and but clearly it hasn't left much of an impression on me because I can't remember the plot. Then we come to my true love. This, of course, I gave a 5-star rating. This is the new Hunger Games book, Sunrise on the Reaping. If you're a Hunger Games fan, you've probably already read this, but if you liked the original trilogy of the Hunger Games but you haven't branched out and read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes or Sunrise on the Reaping, I would really recommend both. This is a classic Hunger Games book. This is just Haymitch's game, and it was so good. I loved all of the cameos that appeared from other books. The epilogue scene made me cry, and it's safe to say that I cannot wait for the film to come out. So this was like one of the easiest 5 stars I gave all year. Now, I spoke about this in my like summer vlogs. I read Song of Achilles. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I know it's really, really popular, and that's why I read it, because I'd heard really, really good things and I thought I was going to love it. I'm really struggling to remember the like original myth, but I don't know, I just thought for like a story set during the war I thought it'd be a bit more exciting, but it bugged me so much, the scenes where they were just like sat in the camp and it felt like they just weren't doing anything. I was like, surely there's like something's gonna happen. And I just like didn't like Achilles. I really didn't like him, and so I couldn't buy into the romance between the two characters because I didn't like one of them, so I didn't want them to get together. I just felt like he was so arrogant and selfish. I just really didn't click with their relationship at all. Unpopular opinion, but yes, that was a miss for me. A book I did love, however, and this was a much needed pick-me-up after I read Song of Achilles, was One Golden Summer. Now, I loved Every Summer After so much. I gave that a 5 stars. One Golden Summer, no exception. That was also a 5-star read for me. This follows the brother, so it follows Charlie and his love interest. So if you've read Every Summer After, you'll know it's about 2 brothers, and you follow Sam, I think he's called, Sam's love story in the first one, and then One Golden Summer is written differently because it doesn't flick between past and present. One Golden Summer was a very linear storyline, it just followed from day one, and so I liked that style. It was fine. It like wasn't necessarily as creative as the other one, but it worked for what the story was and for how the romance came about. It was so cute. I loved the setting. I just loved the romance. I think I just really click with the way Carly Fortune writes romances. That was a 5-star. Then we move on to another 5-star, which was Looking for Alaska. I loved the TV show of this, and I had never read a John Green book, so this was my first one. I loved it. I just love this world so much that I knew that I would love this book, but I wanted to read the book because my mum has also read it, and she said that there's things that differ between the book and the TV series, so I had to get the full experience. It's about a boy called Miles who goes to a boarding school, and it's basically just about friends that he makes. They pull lots of pranks, but then something really traumatic happens, and so it's about how him and his friends navigate the trauma. I mean, it's a classic John Green book. Something sad happens in all of them. Then I read The Midnight Library. I really hit a stint of 5-star books this year, which potentially explains why I've reached a bit of a reading slump. This was such an easy 5-star read for me. I loved The Midnight Library. It was the most quotable fiction book I think I've ever read. Like, I highlighted so much. It was so inspiring, and I think really kind of changed my perspective on the way I think about things. I just really loved it. The plot, if you're not familiar, is about a woman who is contemplating committing suicide, and then she goes through with it, but before she dies is taken to the Midnight Library, and she's given the opportunity to pull out books, and each book is a different life that she could have lived. So she explores what it would have been like to be a professional athlete or in a band, and you get to see all of these really cool life paths that she could have chosen to take, but that's not the point of the book. The point of the book is more about learning to be happy with the life that you have. Then I read Surrounded by Idiots. I started this ages ago. This is what I mean. I hate reading non-fiction. It is so boring. I enjoyed Surrounded by Idiots, but I don't think it needed to be as long as it was. I think probably I got halfway through the book and I was like, I get the point now. I gave it a 3-star because the idea behind the book was really sound and was really interesting, but it just went on. Basically the idea is there's 4 personality types: red, yellow, green and blue, and depending on whether, I don't know, you're more hot-headed or a bit more passive or really chatty, you kind of fit into one of those categories. Most people are a combination of colours, so I think it's quite common to be 2 colours, sometimes 3. It's very rare that you're just 1. But it was all about how to communicate with those people, so it was quite useful for like the world of work. If that sounds interesting to you, it is a really interesting book. I just don't like reading non-fiction, which is why I got a lower score. Then I read The Beach. This was good, but it wasn't as good as I was expecting. I also gave this a 3-star. I know some people think it's amazing. I enjoyed it. It was just long, and can we talk about that font size? Minuscule. This took me over a month. It took me about a month and a half to read. It's so different to the film. So if you've watched the film with Leonardo DiCaprio and you enjoyed it, you probably will enjoy the book more, I would say. I thought the book was much better. The film is like a completely different story, and that really annoys me. I also don't really get it because Danny Boyle and the guy that wrote this, Alex Garland, are friends to my knowledge, and I just it was like Danny Boyle basically just was like, cool story, but I'm gonna change the whole thing. It was good. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be though for a book that is a thriller. The plot is the main character, Richard, is going travelling. He's like young 20s, I think, and he's staying in a hostel, and the guy that is sharing a wall with him, so in the room next door, he gets talking to and then finds that the man has committed suicide and has left a map in his room for Richard to find. Richard finds this map and then decides to follow it, and he discovers the beach, and it is quite literally that. It is a beach, and maybe I won't say any more. There definitely are exciting bits, but I felt like it was a very, very realistic portrayal of what life would be like on the beach, and so perhaps that didn't make for the most interesting read. Then from the beach I went to The Beach Read by Emily Henry. This was not for me. I did not like this, and this is what I mean when I say there are some romance books that I love and there's some romance books that I hate. This I really thought I would like. I've heard it's really good. It's like a beach house setting, which is typically my favourite kind of romance book. I love that setting. The romance I thought sounded cute. It's close proximity, neighbours. I just really found it really boring. Just didn't really vibe with the relationship and the characters at all, and I felt like the book had potential, and then just as it started to go down one avenue, it then didn't go where I was expecting it to go. I think this is Emily Henry's like first romance book, or like one of the first ones, so perhaps that explains why I didn't love it as much. But I swear this is the one that like everyone says they really like. So again, unpopular opinion, but I did not really like Beach Read, and thus the reading slump continued. I felt like I had such a good summer of like 5-star reads, and then my autumn has just been like 3-star, 2-star, 3-star, 3-star. My penultimate book of the year was Day of the Triffids. This I gave 3 stars. It was really good. Again, it just was far too realistic for me. I think if you're gonna do sci-fi, like, let's go crazy with it. Like, I felt like it was such a realistic portrayal of how people would have actually dealt with the situation that it kind of made it not very exciting. I'll explain. So the plot in brief, the first chapter, you wake up as the main character and you're in a hospital and there's no one around, and you quickly discover that everyone has gone blind, and that the Triffids, which have always been a thing in the world, they're basically like sentient plants. Like the plants like move around and do stuff, but they can be dangerous. They have a stinger that can kill you, but they've been like in people's gardens for years. Like, people have learned how to tame them, but because people have gone blind, the Triffids have now started to take over. So it's a bit like War of the Worlds or like a zombie apocalypse kind of vibe. I just kind of wish there was a little bit more action. It kind of felt like every time it got to a point where it was really exciting, the excitement would be over in like 2 pages. Really enjoyed it as a concept. It was a book that I'd set out to read this year because I know it's a classic, and we'd been watching The Last of Us, and I was like, The Last of Us, Day of the Triffids, they go quite well together, but it just didn't hit quite as hard as I was expecting it to, considering that is a genre of film / book that I really enjoy. My final book of the year that I read was Emerald Fennell's Monsters. This was an interesting book. I started off by like really loving it, and I was certain it was going to be like a 4 or 5 star, and then as the book went on, I enjoyed it less and less. So I gave it a 3 in the end. Monsters is a black comedy that follows 2 kids, and a murder has happened in the seaside town that they're staying in over the summer holidays. So they love murders and murderers. They both like have created this friendship over the summer about how much they're interested in serial killers. So when a body shows up on the beach, they're like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. Like I said, it's a dark comedy. So it was so funny. Like, there were like laugh out loud bits in the book, but it felt like Emerald Fennell had kind of shoved all of her best jokes within the first 5 chapters, and then they just slowly fizzled out. I didn't love the mystery. So it is a murder mystery. The kids then try and solve who's been doing these murders, and you do eventually find out who's been doing it. I didn't love the reveal, I'll be honest. I felt like there were signs, but I didn't really feel like you could predict it. And it also felt like they'd gathered like 1 clue up until 80% of the way through the book. Honestly, maybe even 90% of the way through the book. Like, I remember reading it and being like, I have like 20 pages left. They've still not found the killer, and I think they have like 1, maybe 2 clues. It didn't really feel like they'd like done much investigating, considering it was supposed to be a murder mystery. So I just like really didn't love the ending because it felt so rushed. That concludes everything that I read in 2025. I'll quickly blast through my audiobooks, but 2 of them are the ACOTAR books, which is why I haven't really included them. I wanted a good comfort listen on my commute to and from work, so I re-listened to the first ACOTAR book and then the second one because I love them so much. They're so good. And I also listened to The Knife of Never Letting Go. I think I gave that a 3 star maybe. It's like a classic YA book. I remember loads of people reading it at school. It's about a boy that has noise. That's like the thing. So he lives, the planet that he lives on, there's like an affection that's gone round, and everyone can hear his thoughts, and like his whole town, everyone is like that, and then he discovers a girl that doesn't have any noise, because his village also is just, I think, entirely full of men, I want to say. So to find a girl, he was like, whoa, that's different. And then she doesn't have any noise, so he can't hear her thoughts out loud. And then basically he slowly starts to uncover that everything he knows is a lie, and so you kind of find out with him the mysteries of his world and uncover the truth. It was a really cool plot. There were just certain things that really irked me about the storyline and some of the characters, but that's by the by. So I think 3 stars was a decent rating for that. That was everything that I read this year. I'm really excited for what 2026 will bring reading wise and more. I've got, yeah, a long TBR list, so I'm hoping this year I can really knuckle down and crack through it. I hope you have perhaps gained some new books for your reading list, or perhaps you shared some of the same opinions, or you had different opinions about some of the books that I read. I think quite a lot of the books I've read this year are like very popular, so yeah, I would be really interested to know what you think about any of them, or if you've got any recommendations. I'm always looking for more. So yes, that is it from me. I hope you have a lovely new year. I hope you had a nice Christmas, and I'll see you next time.